Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today is going to be a little bit of story time. What I'm about to make is in no way authentic. It is in no way traditional. It is in no way anything other than coming from my memories of things that I like in a patty. And let me tell you how I got to this point. I've got a heavy frying pan here, and the first thing we're going to do is brown some beef as soon as it comes up to temperature. Actually, before we get too far, I need to grind some allspice. And every time I use allspice, I get comments from people saying, why can't you tell us what's in your allspice? How am I supposed to recreate it if I don't know what's in your allspice? What's in my allspice is allspice. It is a single spice. It is a single berry. It is a single berry from a tree that grows in the Caribbean. It is often called Jamaican pimento. It comes from a tree called Pimento doica that grows throughout the Caribbean and Central America. It is called allspice in English because it tastes like a mix of spices, but it is just one thing. It is a single berry called allspice. Okay, so into the mortar and pestle that goes, and start to crush it up. Looks like the pot's hot, so we'll start to brown that ground beef. Okay, so I'm a Scarborough boy. I grew up in Scarborough. I went to Bethune. I went to Lamb. And I grew up eating patties. And since I'm a Scarborough boy, I would argue that back in the day, in the 80s, late 70s, in the 80s, the best patty was either Warden Station or Kennedy Station. Okay, there we go. Some ground up allspice. And so growing up, taking the subway, I could, the fastest way if I was taking the subway would be to go to Finch Station on the Young Line and then take the Finch bus east to home. But I would go out of my way to go to Warden or Kennedy in order to get a patty. It's just who I was. Sadly though, I think both of those places are gone. I know that the Warden Station patty place is gone, and I don't take the subway much anymore. Just, I don't know. And I switched to Randy's Patties. I really loved Randy's Patties. And then Randy's closed. They sold the IP to another group, and the patties just aren't the same. Anyway, so this brings us up to earlier this week. Julie and I were... Okay, so I've got some onion here. I'm going to put the onion in now because the beef is brown. I've got the tiniest little potato that I have diced into tiny little pieces, and it is raw at this point. I'm going to throw it in. I've cut it small enough that it will cook in with the beef. It'll absorb flavors, but it won't break down completely. And I've also got a hot pepper. Normally, I would use a Scotch bonnet. I went to Blue Sky today and they didn't have a Scotch bonnet, so I'm using a hot banana. Of course, you're cooking at home. Cook with the level of heat that you like. Really, that's what it comes down to, is cook at the level of heat you like. And some pepper and some salt. Anyway, Julie and I are downtown. We've got to go downtown for an event. We park at City Hall Station, come to the top of the steps, and it's pouring rain. And so we decide to go into the path. Downtown Toronto, the downtown core of Toronto, all of the office towers and hotels and event spaces and all of those things are connected underground by this labyrinthine tunnel system. And as we're walking to where we're going, and it's not just a tunnel system, it's like a giant underground shopping mall that caters to all of the people that work in the businesses in the towers above, right? So you can come down and you get your hair cut at lunch. There's all kinds of food courts. There's, places like Shoppers Drug Mart, things like that. Bookstores, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so we're down in the path, and we kept walking past this new startup patty place that has locations all through the path. And all I wanted was a patty. Just so badly, what I wanted was a patty. Okay, this is looking pretty good. We've got some fond on the bottom. The onion's starting to soften. The potato's starting to soften. Now we go in with our spices. So first in the allspice. Got some thyme, some turmeric, I've got minced garlic and minced ginger. And so give that a bit of a stir. Okay, I've got some curry powder. Use your favorite brand of curry powder. I don't know, what's that? Teaspoon and a half, something like that. Play with the amounts to come up with your own sort of flavor profile. And I've got some beef stock. Stir that together. Marmite. Because nothing says to me beef flavor like Marmite. So, about that much. Okay. Get the Marmite in there. Scrape up the fond on the bottom, get all that flavor. So now everything's in there, we want to simmer it down. The beef stock, we want to drive off most of the moisture. We want it to coat everything in the flavor, but we want a fairly thick gravy. We don't want it sloppy when it goes into the casing. Anyway, so Julie and I are down there. I really want a patty. That's all I could think about. And came home, it's all I could think about. Thinking about where am I going to go get a patty. And I'm in the freezer yesterday here, looking through the freezer, and in the bottom of the freezer, there's a box of puff pastry. And I couldn't remember when I bought the puff pastry or when I used it on camera, but I do know that I haven't been in the kitchen cooking much over the summer. So it's been at least 4 or 5 months that that's been in the freezer. It's got to go. Puff pastry is not the pastry you use for a patty at all. I know that. But I've got to use it up. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do with it? I could make apple turnovers. I'm going to make patties. Because to me, it's a mix between the incredible, sort of flakiness of the pastry and the filling. Can I nail the filling? I can nail the pastry. I know I can nail the pastry. Can I nail the filling? Can I get a filling that I really like? This is coming along nicely. It's looking pretty good. It smells amazing. Let's get a fork and we'll give it a little bit of a taste. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. A little more curry. A little more curry powder. Not too hot. Not over the top in heat level, which I'm going to kind of like. Big, bold flavors. It's got a lot going on. Okay. Last 2 ingredients. I've got some sliced up green onion and a little bit of breadcrumb, about 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs. There you go. The breadcrumbs soak up all that gravy and make it nice and thick. At this point, it's cooked. I'm going to take it off the heat and let it cool down to room temperature before we put the filling in the pastry. Okay, so I left the studio, I walked inside, and the whole way back inside, back of my brain is like, you forgot something. You forgot something. What did you forget? Here's what I forgot. And there's debate on this. Soy sauce or Worcestershire sauce? Which one? Some people put both. Some people put both soy and Worcestershire sauce. Some people won't put one or the other. That's what was missing when I tasted it. I knew the flavor was really good, but it was just a little bit off. So this is our, every time I smell this, it just gets better. We made this in 2019. I made a whole big jar of it, and I'm halfway through at this point. It's a homemade take on Worcester sauce, and I really like the flavor. So I'm going to put a big spoonful in. And then, just to balance it out, I'm going to put some Hendo's relish, because I really like the Hendo's. So there we go. Put that much, and we'll stir that in, and we'll pretend that I never forgot anything. So the meat has cooled down, and I've got the puff pastry. Like I said, I know, not in any way traditional or authentic. Best before January 1st, 2026. So I've got some time left. And I know that best before dates don't mean it expires. It would probably be good in the freezer for another year. It's just, I run a real risk of having stuff kind of get lost in the freezer and having it spoil, because even the best freezer goes through freeze and thaw cycles, and it's not good for texture. And so I like to use stuff up. When I see something in the freezer and it doesn't have a date on it, and I try to put a date on everything, but I obviously miss out sometimes, I try to use it up as quickly as possible so that I don't have it sit there forever. Okay, now I want 6. Traditionally, you would use a round. You would cut out rounds and you would make half moons. And that would give me 4, and they would be pretty big. I could actually just cut this into 4 and fold it over and see what happens and make them really full of stuff. Okay. That. Almost even. Almost even? Even-ish? Even enough? Okay. In this bowl, I've got egg and water, just mixed up for an egg wash. And now divide fairly evenly. I am going to have beef mix left over. No two ways about it. There's going to be some beef mix left over, which will be fine. Okay, so I've used about half of the filling. I guess if I had 2 of these pieces of puff pastry, it would have been better. Cooking without a net. So, first use of our egg wash is just to go around the outside, make it easier to pinch these closed. And then oh, look at that. That's so full. That's going to be great. Take a fork. Little egg wash over the top. Last one. And into the oven. Okay, the oven is set at 375, and these will cook, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes. Just keep an eye on them. Hot.
You be careful there, Glenn.
Hot, Julie.
Hey, friend.
Hot.
Hey, Glenn. I don't know where to stand here, but that looks hot.
So,
Just based on your expression as you were touching it.
totally inauthentic, totally not traditional. I give you the Glen Patty.
The Glen Patty.
Yes.
Okay.
The Glen Patty.
Not a pasty, but a patty?
A patty. So
Okay.
it's loosely my take on, you know, if you grew up in Scarborough, you'd go to every corner store, you'd go to the Warden station, you'd get a patty. And that's because I found the puff pastry in the freezer and I couldn't remember when I bought it. So it had to be used. And I thought, why not try this? Okay. Let's cut that in half and see what we got. Okay. Let's see.
was looking pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Got lots of filling. That's
Lots
always
of
good.
filling. Yes. So there was enough filling to make 8, but I only made 4 because that's all I had. Okay.
How hot is it? Feels hot.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not,
No, it's not Randy's patty.
no,
It's not Kennedy Station patty.
no. But it's still a pretty good hand pie.
Uh-huh.
But like, it's still really quite hot.
It is. So here's the deal. I want you to respect tradition, know the tradition, of course. There's hundreds of channels here on YouTube that are probably going to make a much more authentic patty than I am. Go and find them and look at them. But really what I want you to do is know that you can go into your own kitchen, assemble a bunch of flavors that you like, put them in a piece of pastry, and it's gonna be great. I want you to experiment with your food. I don't want you to be afraid to go in the kitchen and do something. Just go in the kitchen and do it.
I think one of the traditions of hand pies that I find amazing is the idea that you took the leftovers and you made them into a hand pie so that they traveled well for lunch the next day.
It's part of every culture.
Yeah.
This was part of every culture. And I think that you need to know that it is, and then just play with it. That's really good. I like that. It's not authentic. It's not what I remember, but it is super tasty. And I'm going to enjoy eating these. Tomorrow, my lunch, that'll just go in a toaster oven. That'll make it more authentic.
Well, we don't have you haven't already bought the display case where they just sit
patty
there and
display
you just
case, I
come
know.
in and grab one and put in the little
And
bag
you wonder how long they've been in there?
with a can of some pop of some sort.
Tahiti treat. A can of Tahiti treat.
Really?
Can of Tahiti treat and a patty. Yeah, good times. Okay, thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. So this is where I segue into telling you about this great apron. But times are tough. And if you don't have 90 bucks, don't worry about it. If you've got 20 bucks, give it to somebody in need. Really. A food bank, a children's lunch program, breakfast program.
Whatever's important to you, that's,
Yeah.
you know, just do it.
Because there's a lot of people out there that have food insecurity. And if you can help them, please do.